Hello everyone, I'm having an interview with Tommy Robinson, the founder of the English Defence League, and a man who you've probably already heard of, so I don't think I'll worry any more about your introduction. How's it going, mate?
It's good, thank you.
Good, glad to hear it. So, let's talk about racism.
Let's.
What race is Islam?
This is the thing, the two biggest defining lines you have to separate is general racism, which I'm completely opposed to, and calling someone a racist because they pick fault with an ideology. And I always bring in the difference of, if I was opposed
about your
to
introduction,
ideology, would anyone be screaming racist then?
Yeah.
They wouldn't. And it's used as a way of silencing us. When we talk about racism, or we talk about race, I probably differ to many people who even followed me over the years. That's just in the sense that I come from Luton. I don't think skin colour means anything. I don't care about skin colour. When I go out with my group of, say, 15 or 20 best friends, every one of us has got a different tone of skin. Some have got black, some have got yellows. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't bother me. It's never bothered me. So I've never experienced. I have experienced racism. I've experienced racism of being the victim of racism many times growing up, for simply being white.
Okay.
Simply being white in a town that's got a large Islamic community.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to racism, so from day one, from the offset, from the offset of being brought up, I've never this whole far right or this Nazi ideology, I'd never seen until I started the English Defence League. I'd never seen it. Didn't understand it.
Right. Okay. So, well, is that beeping you, or is it me?
Yeah, it's me, mate.
Ah, right, okay. Okay. That's all right. So
I'm being through on WhatsApp.
Yeah. So let's talk about, like, I mean, who do you vote for?
I don't.
Oh. Who would you vote for if you did?
I never have. I'll get clear why I haven't. I haven't voted because I'm part of up until the age of 25, really, when I formed the English Defence League, I didn't care about politics. I had no interest in politics, the same as every other working class kid. There's not many kids. They don't care. Who are you voting for? Don't care. Not bothered. Not rich enough and not poor enough for it either to really affect us.
Yeah.
Then now I don't vote because I can't be on an electoral roll. Since I've become ingrained in politics or interested in politics, I'm not on an electoral roll for my own safety reasons, for security issues. So I haven't voted. Who would I vote for? That's one where I don't see any party. Like there's parts in the Labour Party manifesto that I'd support. There's parts of the Conservative manifesto that I'd support. Parts of UKIP manifesto that I'd support. So this whole thing for years, where people are desperate to put people into a bracket. We've seen it through everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I found myself. I'm guilty of it myself. I always talk about the left. Yeah. Look, what I stand for is not a left or right wing issue. It's neither. It should attract people from support from the left and from the right. And so it's not a left or right wing issue. And most of my views, like most other people, would not be categorised in one of those brackets. You take a bit from each. So politically, yeah, I'm very neutral.
Really, you describe yourself more as sort of centrist.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
More as, yeah. So, yeah. In the most recent elections, UKIP, and I've said UKIP, do I think UKIP in the long term would be a fundamental party to represent the working class? It's got a long way to go. If it was,
yeah,
it's not a working class party. It's a wealthy. It's more of a run by wealthy elite people. So do I think they'd have the working class interests at heart? I hope they would, and I hope they're going that way. And they've interested me on certain topics to do with immigration because they're the only people brave enough. But if I'm honest, I find certain things. I think that UKIP just need to cut the nonsense and say that it's Islamic immigration. That's how I feel, because I'm not entirely that bothered by European immigration.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I actually don't like any mass immigration, because I think that one thing the working class really needs to start articulating really is that mass immigration is class warfare. It's rich people bringing in poor people from other countries to compete for jobs with other poor people in this country. There's no need for it. There's simply no
Yeah,
need for it.
there's no need for mass immigration, but the reason I see, and the reason I say it is, I just look at, I've been brought up in a town of immigrants. Everyone I know, even my mum come here as an immigrant. So yeah, I'm against mass uncontrolled immigration.
Yeah.
But if someone said to me, am I against a man from Spain coming to get a job in England and work hard, which he would, or a German person or a Dutch person, I don't think when people are talking currently about the problems with immigration, that's what they're talking about. I think they're talking about third world Islamic immigration.
That is the most obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I feel. So I don't feel that passionate about jumping up and down about even Polish people coming to the UK. That's not where I'm at. Yeah. That's not where I've ever been.
And that's, I assume, due to the geographical location of where you grew up, you know.
Yeah, due to where I've grown up, and due to the fact that I think that most of the other European countries, immigrants will be coming here working hard, and also when they have children, they'll be adapting to this country and assimilating to this country in a way that third, fourth, and fifth generation Pakistanis are not. So I don't see the huge problem with it, which again would probably fall out of line with many people who have supported me over the years. But that's my personal, that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Okay.
I know loads of great Polish people, like in Luton and different nationalities.
But again, I think it comes down to a fundamental difference in the set of values Polish people and, say, people from sort of Syria or Afghanistan again.
Christian values. Yeah, Christian values.
Well,
the thing is, in the UK, if I see a Polish man walking down the street currently, he's usually with a Polish woman.
Yeah.
If I see a Muslim man, he's with another 6. It's more of a gang culture. That's the way it is. That's what I've noticed that through the differences. So I'm whilst I am against, as you said, I have friends who are working on building sites, not so much now because the building train's booming, everyone's getting as much as they want on the building sites. But I remember when hard times come and some Eastern European workers, they say there's 6 men living in one house. 6 men living in one house. So they're sharing that rent, yeah? Mm-hmm. Whereas one of us English lads, we're living with our wife and children, we've got to pay the rent on our own. So they're going out to work for less price because they haven't got the overheads that we've got.
Yeah,
they're sending some money home to their families. So the unfair advantage on things like that. But I don't blame them, and I can't blame them. I can't blame anyone who wants to travel for immigration.
This is one of the things that kind of annoys me about people getting frustrated about the Syrian refugees, and not just the refugees themselves, but the economic migrants taking advantage of the crisis. I mean, you would too if you were in an impoverished country and there was Angela Merkel offering you loads of money.
Well, I think many
do the same.
I think I know. My dad worked all over the world. He went everywhere, but I remember in the recession back in the day, many of the English went out to Germany to work.
Yeah, they did.
For increased pay. So no, I don't blame any of them. What I blame is our weak governments and the people that are facilitating it and allowing it to happen, sending out the wrong message to the world, to poor people across the world, that they need to risk their lives to travel here for this promised land, that in reality it's going to bring our country backwards and we're going to head to conflict. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's been completely... I mean, it wasn't something anyone got to vote on, and it's been completely mismanaged. So, I again, just... the whole thing is a farce, and I can't understand why anyone agreed to any of it in the first place. But, so, let's talk about... let's talk about Luton before the EDL, then. I take it you grew up in Luton, right?
I grew up in Luton. I was born in 1982, so I'm 33. And when I was born, there was one mosque. And from a young age, I remember hearing the stories from older generations of problems in the town. But going on from then until now, there's over 30 mosques. Before the English Defence League, I can remember countless. I spoke about it many times. I've wrote about it in my book. I spoke about it at Oxford. Many instances that made me just stop and look and understand the differences from a young age. I'll give one incident of a fella called Mark Sharp, who was brutally murdered in front of his 11-year-old son at the time, who was my age. He had his knife snapped off his head. There seemed to be at this time, I think it was probably, when you look at it, it was probably after the Kuwait invasion, there was an explosion of violence orchestrated from the Muslim community towards the non-Muslim community. You're looking back and trying to put a finger on it now. What we didn't realise at that time was that Al Mujahideen, Omar Bakri, Abu Hamza, they'd all set up base, they'd set up camp in Luton. Many radicals actually, and Islamist ideology perpetrators were actually given refuge in the UK because our governments were in bed with them and supporting them in order to combat the Soviet Union.
Okay, that's I think that's really interesting. So, who are the people you said were specifically at Luton?
Omar Bakri,
yeah.
Omar Bakri, Abu Hamza,
Yep.
And then Anjem Chowdhury is part of that group. But then the up and rising youth from Luton was Saif al-Islam.
Yeah. Now, people who don't know who these guys are should simply just Google them. They are Muslim supremacists. They are.
These are some of the most famous Muslim supremacists in the world.
Yeah.
They're part of. So Al Mujahideen, their head office was on Biscuit Road. It's mad because it's just in our town centre. Their head office was in our town. This is before anyone knew of who they were. Yeah? Their head office is in our town centre. They are now 50% of Muslims in jail on terrorism are ex-members of their organisation. They are now a prescribed terrorist organisation. But for years and decades, they were allowed to grow and grow and grow, unchallenged by governments, by councils, by police, and in most unchallenged by the Muslim community. So they were polluting our town for decades. That's why whenever you see terrorism in the UK, you'll usually see an arrest come from Luton. We're still dealing with the problems now that they laid that they planted the seeds for. We are unique in Luton, in Birmingham, and in East London for having certain strains and real extremist sects and organisations. Because once they get their foot into a community, the youth are looking up to them, and then they grow and they grow, and their numbers grow. They recruit, they radicalise. But yeah, before the English Defence League, I'd experienced years and years of hostility growing up. I'd witnessed the general difference, the difference between Muslims and non-Muslims, whether that was Ghanaians, St. Lucians, Jamaicans, Indians, or whatever Muslim youth there were. I noticed the very vast difference in the aggression, in the general aggression and the hostility.
Now, that's an interesting thing as well, because people often forget that Britain has the, I think, second highest population of Hindus in all the world, and yet you wouldn't know it.
No, you wouldn't know. No,
you wouldn't know it, no, unless it's about 11:30 and you need to get a pack of fags. Then you know it. That's the only time, and then you're goddamn grateful for it. And a lot of, and the thing is, Hindus and Pakistanis, Indians and Pakistanis, very little genetic difference. And so when people say to me things like, "Oh, they're genetically programmed," it's like, no, I don't think they are. We can see that it's just an ideology that's informed. It's an ideology,
and it's so. I can remember at school. So I went to junior school with a lad called Jatin, who was a Sikh lad, and at this time I didn't know nothing about religion. Yeah. And I can remember when we went to high school and there was a fight in the park after school, and it was Jatin fighting another boy called Hasib. I can then remember hearing all the shouts, all the kafar, and all the derogatory comments. And at that time then, when I was 11 years old, I'd have looked at them both and thought they were from the same background, same culture.
Yeah.
And I thought they're the same, because I wasn't understanding the religious conflict or difference until that time, and then it made me, and then it made me think, and then I understood then the hatred that there was from the Muslim community towards Sikhs.
Oh yeah,
and the historic. I've learned a lot now, but I've had many moments, like even when I was at school. When I was at school, I was going out with this girl. I was going out with lots of girls. I was going out with this girl. I was going out with this girl. And her best friend was going out with one of my friends at the time, who was a young Afghani, a young lad from Afghanistan. And his family went up to her house, because I can remember her ringing my girlfriend at the time, crying her eyes out, hysterical, because all of his family have just come, because a lot of the Muslims used to get bussed up to where we go to school. They're still doing it now, because all their schools are full because of the overpopulation within their community. They bust them up to our estate. So buses used to come in full of Muslim children to the school. Now, so his family have come from a different area of town up to our area of town. They've gone to the mum's house and basically threatened her. They've said that the children can have nothing to do with each other. His friendship with her is going to lead to the death of their father. They were blaming it, and unfortunately, their dad did die. Yeah? But the death of their father, and then I remember as probably 12 at the time, just trying to understand it, because. Yeah. I didn't get that, because everyone I know is black mum, white mum, black dad. It's just like that, yeah. So as I'm growing up, and And I thought, what's going on here? What's this about? What do you mean you're not? What do you mean you're not allowed to talk to her? Yeah? What do you mean they're not allowed to talk to each other? We're just kids at school.
Yeah.
And so I had so many moments. So I obviously, when the English Defence League started, I've had so many things that have happened through growing up, through violence, through confrontations, just experiences that have made me see the difference. I've seen the way the town's gone. I've seen on every faith march in Luton. I remember when there's no Jews left in Luton now.
Of course not.
There's none.
Yeah.
Mate. But the old Holocaust is now the Islamic Centre run by the Salafists, which is where the Stockholm bomber went.
Yeah.
That building that they took over after persecuting and terrorising the Jewish community until they left, that building is now the Luton Islamic Centre. Now, there were Jews in probably 2005, or I can't get I remember in the Holocaust, so there were families there, not many of them. There was a young girl, who was about 5 or 6, and herds and mobs of Muslims chased them into the town hall, into our town hall. They had to barricade themselves inside the town hall. And I remember the girl screaming, hysterical, a young child.
As you would, yeah. I mean,
So all these sorts of things we've seen. Yeah? The police do nothing. They never do nothing. We'd experienced, my cousin was sexually abused and groomed. All of the problems that the country now know about that are open. One thing that people have to understand, the grooming scandal, the Rotherham scandal.
I was going to ask you about this. Has anything similar happened in Luton?
Well, you see the way the police failed to deal with the sexual exploitation.
Yeah.
What we need to understand, what everyone needs to understand is, it's not just sexual exploitation they failed to deal with. It's everything.
Yeah.
Right? So let's not just pretend they were letting them get away with raping those girls. They were letting them get away with kicking the shit out of all the white English kids. Yeah. They were letting them get away. They were letting them get away with everything. So everything was a taboo. Everything was, we don't know how to deal with this. We're not going to deal with it. What we're going to do is we're going to turn away and pretend it's not happening. Not just the rape and sexual exploitation. These police failures that everyone's reading about, they would be exactly the same for racism, for extremism, for any of the intolerance shown in any sort of way by the Muslim community towards a non-Muslim community. The police have failed. And I've watched for years, and it comes to a point where we just know that's how it is. Yeah. As young kids, we know, and I remember my parents used to say, if you walk past Muslims, don't look up. That as a young kid, that's what we're getting told, and that's what English parents are now telling their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah? I won't be telling my kid that. Yeah?
No.
Because and I never reacted to that, and I had to come out of school, and I remember when kids were going to colleges. I remember knowing I couldn't go to that college because I'd gone to school. And we'd had clashes at school with Pakistani youth. We'd had gangs of men come into the school, not kids, like men come into the school. And anyone who's grown up in areas like Luton will know these stories. Yeah? You have a fight with a 14-year-old Muslim kid at school, you get outside, mate, there's loads of 21, 22-year-olds waiting in cars. That's what happens. It's a gang thing. Yeah. So, and anyone will know that. So I've grown up in that and experiencing it all. And the English Defence League was sort of like, it was the final thing, it was final straw, and you can see by the way it spread like a phenomenon that it wasn't just the final straw for me, it was the final straw. People have felt the way I felt. I thought it was me in Luton. I thought this was our problem in the town of Luton. I thought this is what's happening in Luton. What I didn't realise is that it's happening in every town in the city. To people, there's people say, oh, Tommy Robinson, yeah, there's 100,000 Tommy Robinsons.
Yeah, no, it really does seem to have spread quite quickly. Okay, so, I mean, this was something that I was most shocked about with the Rotherham report. I can't remember the name of the doctor who performed it, but she basically found there was a deep undercurrent of fear of the word racist.
Huge.
Ridiculously so. Sorry, is that you again?
Yep, sorry.
That's all right. But ridiculously so, to the point where, I mean, she would be describing cases where they would find the English girl who had been groomed by these Muslim men, who had been raped by them, when, under the influence, and then they would take the girl and then write down that she was willing and like a prostitute or something like that.
Yep.
I was furious, the idea that they would even think, well, maybe we should protect our reputation, we don't want to be called racist, fuck this kid, is just
The kids didn't matter. The kids don't matter.
No.
They still don't matter.
No.
I'll tell you one story. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
From Blackpool. Okay. So a father, and this story, like, you have to imagine. I said some of the people I've sat with and some of the things I've heard, I wish I'd never heard.
Yeah,
I wish
yeah.
I never had to hear them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a dad, and he's got a daughter, and she's going missing. Yeah. And she's going missing all the time. And then she sat with him, and then she's missing with these Muslim men have got her. Yeah. And the Muslim man rang the girl's dad. Yeah. With his dad. He's with his dad. The Muslim man and his dad have got his daughter, who's 13. Yeah, they rang the girl's dad off her phone so he could listen to them as they raped her. As they the dad's done everything. Yeah, he's gone to what they then did. The girl, as soon as she got to 16, they moved. So he had this on and back and forth for years. Yeah, trying to get her back. Police just not helping, not doing anything. And until Rotherham, people wouldn't believe these things. Yeah, and then when she gets to 16, boom, she's just gone. She's gone from that city. And he said last he knew she was in Burnley. Yeah, but when you hear these, so it's, and I said there was things that always for years I felt many of the times just like I've had enough of this. Like, I've had enough of all of it. Not enough of hearing. I've had enough of the stress or the stuff. I'd had my wife moaning. My mum's now. I'd have my mum moaning, saying stop, stop. But every time I meet, I just think, how can we stop? How can you stop when that's going on? And we know that's going on. Yeah, we know that. And he says, and some of the things, man, it's just like Jesus Christ. And you're meant to put up with that?
Yeah.
I don't know how any dads have not. If that was happening in my door, I'd be killing people.
Yeah.
I can't. And when I'm talking to the dad is now a broken man. It's not the effect. It's not just broken that child. It's broken the father. And this is what there's some charities I've met through the years. I met at Seek Awareness.
Yeah.
Mate, the work this charity do, Seek Awareness, is just. It's brilliant. What they do is, because they give counselling, when they get the girl back, they give counselling, they understand that the girl doesn't just need counselling, the dad does, the mum does, the sister does. The whole family need counselling to try and get through what's been allowed to happen. So these sort of issues, like, and these stories should shock me, or they did shock me, they shocked me, and I had a cousin that this happened to. That cousin now wears a burqa. She's got 6 kids or something, and the family haven't seen her for probably 15 years, 20 years, because no one knows who she is. She could walk past her dad tomorrow in the shopping centre, and you wouldn't know because she's tallied up. So these sort of things are. Any of our opposition, I have loads of. These are real stories. Yeah, these are real people. Yeah? This isn't a joke. This isn't. We're not doing this because we're bored. We're not doing this because we're bored or we want trouble. It's the fact that there's been a systematic failure and a letdown of hundreds of thousands of young children and their families from one end of this country to the other, and the reason being the fear of being called racist.
And one of the things one of the stories from the Rotherham thing that just I was just so livid. I was so fucking livid that the state could allow this to happen, right? This guy, like your dad, his daughter had been basically groomed by these guys. They'd taken him to her house, and he'd been contacting the police. They did nothing. So eventually he went round to do something to get her back, and the police arrested him. Yeah, these guys are in there raping and giving this young girl drink and drugs and whatever against any parent's wishes, against the law, and the police arrest the dad who's trying to rescue her. And it's just like, don't know what to say. I'm just fucking furious.
And it's not, and if like exactly like that, like we were talking earlier, that the program that was on the other day.
Yeah. Well,
24 hours in police.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a bit later if that's all right.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
We'll because I do want to talk about that as well, because that was the thing that actually inspired me to contact you to do this, because.
Because that ginger, that ginger convert, who's now in jail for terrorism. I got a phone call from my family saying that one of my family members are being followed by a car with radical Muslims in. So they didn't know what to do. So I just told them they were told to go home. Yeah? Just go home.
Yeah.
Right, go home. We're on our way. Yeah. I was in a pub in town, and here's the problem as well. I was in a pub in town, and there's probably 6 men in the pub, and I turned around and said, those terrorists are following my family. Yeah. So I've got to get up there, and out of the 6 men, 1 got in the car with me. 1, and we've got in the car, and I'm driving. I'm flying.
Yeah.
To get up there, and I don't know what's going on in my head. I don't know what's gone on I don't know what's gone on at the house. I don't know what's happening at the house. I just know that these terrorists, and then it's not a joke saying they're terrorists. They've all been done for terrorism now. And this was happening 4 weeks after they pulled over the car near Birmingham, which had guns, bombs, and IEDs. So 4 weeks after, the counter-terrorism had sat me down and said, "We found a car full of bombs and guns. They were going to kill you lot." Yeah. 4 weeks later, I've got a car following members of my family. So I'm shooting up there, not knowing, having a clue what's going on. What I don't know is that one of my other family members has already come out. When the car's pulled in, he's already come out to confront them. Yeah, He's already come out to confront them. As that's happened, I've come screeching around the corner. They're on the corner of the street. Now I've just leapt out of the car, 100 miles an hour, right? And I put a balaclava on, because I had a balaclava in the car, yeah? And it was an EDL balaclava, and that comes from anyone who's read my book. It comes from, we was arrested in the back of a van years ago, and we had EDL balaclavas. So I've jumped out of a balaclava, my friend, and I've just run at them, yeah. And as I've run at them, there's loads of them by this point, and the police have come screeching into the road. Yeah? We're outside my family's house. We're screeching into the road.
Yeah.
They've run. I've stopped then because the police are there. There's more and more of these Muslims coming, cars of them pulling up. They're getting out there, openly standing with weapons. Do you know what the police did? They jumped straight on me. They took my balaclava, they pulled the balaclava. I said, don't take my balaclava off, don't take my balaclava. Because I knew as soon as they see my face, it's going to erupt the situation.
Yeah.
They pulled my balaclava off, and then all the Muslims started going wild. Then they arrest me to prevent a breach of the peace. They then walk over and arrest my uncle to prevent a breach of the peace. They arrest my cousin. They then take us away, leave the women at the house. They take us away, leave 20 Muslim men standing outside the house. They're not we're arrested, yeah? We get to interview. I'm in there 36 hours. They got an extension to hold us. I'm in there 36 hours. And the whole time I'm not knowing what's going on at home, what's gone on. Yeah? But in the back of my head, I think it's all right. The police have found. I'm thinking the police are going to search their cars. They're going to have found loads of weapons because they're coming up to do a job on me. Yeah? They're going to have found all this stuff. When we get to interview, the first thing I said before we started, I said, "What did you find?" And her face just went. She just looked at. I went, "You haven't searched them." And she went, "What?" I said, "You haven't even searched their cars. Please tell me you searched their cars." "Why would we search their cars?" I said, "What do you mean, why would you search their cars? We're in a dead-end close, in the middle of a non-Muslim area." I said, "And you've got cars full of terrorists coming up to our house, and you haven't searched their cars." And then the last, she said, "I told you they had weapons." She said, "No, you wouldn't." And after I hang up this, I'll send you the video, yeah? As I'm getting handcuffed, because my cousin videoed me getting handcuffed, as I'm getting handcuffed, I said, "Look at them up there, openly holding weapons," yeah? And I said it to the copper, and you can see me say it on video. I said, "They've all got weapons and you're nicking me." I said, "Terrorists are at my house and you're nicking me," yeah? And they held me, 36 hours, they bailed me. They put me on bail. They didn't search one of their cars, they didn't stop them, right? They just tried to calm the situation with all the Muslims, try and get them to leave the road. None of them were stopped, none of them were searched. We still don't know to this day what weapons they had or what they had in their car, whether they had guns, bombs. And we're held for 36 hours, and then the police just dropped the charges again. Just dropped the charges. So for myself, I've been through experience after experience after experience where the police just fail. I've seen it. I was out on a night out, and my cousin and Kev Carroll's wife rang up and said, "Get up the house." This was before the EDL. This was years ago. We've shot up the house, and all the young kids on the estate are fighting with loads of Muslim men. These sort of things are going on all the time. Yeah, all the young kids are fighting with loads of Muslim men. The kids are about 12, 13, 14 years old. The men are like 22, 23, probably my age at the time.
Yeah.
Police cars come screeching in the road. Just jumped straight on all the white kids. Just jumped all over them, holding them on the floor. And I said, "You cowards, what's all that about?" And they said, "What do you want us to do?" your job, lads. You know what I mean?
Arrest the people starting a fight. How is that difficult to understand?
But that's the failures. So the failures in Rotherham, it's not just Rotherham.
No, it's not.
It's not just sexual grooming. It's everything. They're scared. The police are scared. They're scared to deal with that community. They're scared. And are they? Is it rightful that they're scared? If you look at the turnaround since the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, do I blame some of them for being scared because everything's always on them for racism and they'll lose their careers, they'll lose their jobs?
Yeah.
There's this whole massive fear thing going on.
Public vilification.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. If they arrest me, yeah, like they did, there's no one's coming down to the police station.
Yeah.
You nick one of them Muslim men, you got 60 of them, 70 of them. They're coming to the police station. Yeah? You've got a potential problem. So we've seen. I know it's how it's policed. I've witnessed it my whole life.
Yeah, have you got them standing there on video with weapons? Can you see them?
I've got them standing there on video. I say I'm getting handcuffed, and I say look up there. And then what happens is, bearing in mind I'm arrested on preventing the breach of the peace.
Yeah.
As I'm arrested, then you see about 8 of them coming down, and they're all shouting, "You're dead! You're dead! We've got your face! We've got your number! We've got your face! Your mum!" And they're screaming.
How can the cops justify that? That's what. Jeez. Oh, this is infuriating.
That's not a one-off.
No, I didn't think for a second it was.
There'll be English kids watching this now who live in towns and cities like Luton and think, yeah. You ever fight with a Muslim outside a nightclub, you're getting nicked.
Yeah.
And the first thing when the police turn up is, he'll say, yeah, he called me this, or he was racist. You're screwed.
Yeah. And the thing is, this completely emboldens anyone who's being protected in this way. And and people are like, oh, it's just Islam. Well, I mean, I think we're seeing a particular problem with Islam, and I think there probably is a sort of preference towards that sort of confrontational nature of Islam.
The black community in Luton don't get an easy time by the police.
Yeah, but that's the thing, isn't it? Because I bet they don't get protected by the word racist in the same way the Muslims do.
No, they don't.
That's the thing. I mean, no. If a white guy and a black guy are fighting outside a nightclub or something, the police aren't going to be like, "Oh, you're racist." Then they're going to be like,
The police will jump on both. But with Pakistan, all the Muslim community in Luton are really Pakistani. With the Pakistani community in Luton, what they can get away with, how they can carry on, and the thing is, they know it as well.
Yeah.
So they laugh. The aggression they show to the police, they don't care.
Yeah, and the police are just going to back down. Which
they
is
do.
Shocking.
They do.
So,
and
yeah. So this is the context in which the EDL was formed. What year was that the EDL was formed in? I don't even know when it was made.
2009.
2009, right? So I mean, and this is after years and years of enduring this abuse, right?
Years of these things, and actually in 2004, when I was 21, I organised a protest called "Ban the Luton Taliban," and that was. Yeah,
that's a good name.
Yeah, Ban the Luton Taliban, and it was the first. I made a leaflet, and actually, do you know what? If you dig that leaflet up, because I brought it to my Oxford Union speech, and I've published it many times since. That leaflet that I wrote in 2004 is completely the same as what I say now. It said, whites and blacks are being religiously and racially targeted in Luton. The police are sitting by and doing nothing. Our women are being groomed, sexually abused, pimped. Heroin is being taken into our communities by Muslim gangs. Yeah? We know what shops are selling heroin in Luton. I know which supermarkets. I know which chicken shops. I know everyone that's doing it. So why aren't you dealing with it? It's not like a normal street drug that people on the estate are all getting involved in. This is heroin, and it's destroying our town, and you're doing nothing. So, and this was in 2004. So I made all these leaflets, and probably stupidly on my part, I named the gangs. I gave the names of the Muslim gangs, and in fact, this was 2004. I named this gang in Luton, and in 2007, a national newspaper named them as well, who done a big write-up on the heroin, the links between them and radical Muslims. Funny enough, 3 years later. Yeah. So we were. So I done this in 2004, and I made it clear again. The majority of Muslims in Luton are fine. Yeah. The majority are not involved in these antics. But this is coming from their community, and we can't hide from it. Yeah. And if you read that leaflet, it's exactly what I say now. It's exactly the same. It's not changed at one bit. Yeah. And but the fallout from that was I was targeted huge, and what I was targeted huge, as you'd expect. I'd annoyed quite a lot of the gangs in the town, and from years, and at that time I was drawing myself into. Well, I was already involved in the Luton football hooligan scene, and it's safety in numbers. So, and that's how I lived my life for many years after that, was safety in numbers. If I go out in the town, I go out in numbers. And it finally had got to sort of a truce in the town, or got to 2007, 2008, I'd started getting on with my life. I had problems, I ended up in prison, but I finally started getting on with my life. I started my own business, everything was just starting to go right. I was engaged to my wife, I had my first child, and then we had a Soldiers' Homecoming Parade, and that's when the Soldiers' Homecoming Parade, and in that Soldiers' Homecoming Parade, we had a young lad called Scott from Farley Hill, who was only 26 when he died. We had Michael Swain, who was 19 when he lost his legs. We went there to pay our respects, and they were attacked. And they were attacked with full knowledge again from our police, our council. This, when we haven't seen the police say no, and then it's like, now you're letting them spit in our soldiers' faces on a homecoming parade, and you've let them. I watched as the police took them through the town hall to do it. Yeah. So for me, then I used a false name, and I hid my face because I knew what was coming with this. Yeah. I knew full well. Try and talk about this, I'm getting it. I knew that. Yeah. That's why I tried to, and I wasn't brave enough to do it at the time. And people say, fair play, respect you, you're brave. I didn't want to do it. That's the truth. I wasn't just like, yeah, it's me. I hid, and I didn't want to be Tommy Robinson. But I was so desperate to push that argument because it needed to be pushed. I remember saying to Kev Carroll, if we let them get away with this, yeah, in Luton, what do you think they're going to do next? They've just turned up in the middle of our town centre and spat in our soldiers' mums' faces and abused our friends' mums. Yeah, what's next? A soldier's funeral? We have to react, and that was the start then of where we started an organisation called the United People of Luton, and that was the start. That was probably the day that my wife wishes never happened, but for me it was a day that had to happen.
Okay, well, tell me, because as I understand it, that's like the precursor organisation to the EDL, right?
Yeah, so UPL, United People of Luton, and again, this is what annoyed me so many times when we started the EDL, and you had people trying to manoeuvre this movement down a race line, yeah, in any sort of way. When we started the UPL, my best friend lost his teeth. It's a black lad, yeah. We went into the town centre. We made signs and placards that you just have to be an idiot not to understand where we're coming from, yeah? It said, most of them were aimed at the council, yeah? Luton Borough Council, you've sold us out. Council house bungs, because we all know there's backhanders going on in the town hall in order to accelerate yourself up the housing list for Muslims.
Yeah.
All these sort of social problems were a lot of what we were talking about, yeah?
Sure.
That we were angry with. We weren't just angry with this, we were angry with a lot of the way our town was being run, yeah? So, and then we said, National Front, go to hell. Yeah? Nazis, we hate Nazis and Muslim extremists. All these different things that made it very clear. Now the police again, they tried to crush us on that first demonstration, and a copper on a horse knocked my friend's teeth out. So he's holding a sign, black lad, holding a sign saying "National Front, go to hell," and his picture was actually in a national newspaper with no teeth, and the coppers knocked his teeth out. Yeah? So, and this was all the start of it. So, and I remember the National Front. I've never really heard of the National Front or had any run-ins with the National Front. On this day in Luton, they turned up. When we had this demonstration, they turned up, and they were run and chased and slapped out of town by Luton lads. Yeah, because Luton, especially the football hooligan element, is a multicultural and diverse group of men.
It's weird how this is something I think a lot of people forget about. And a lot of my family's working class, and they are the most anti-racist people you'll know. I mean, most of the working classes genuinely are. They genuinely do not care about race. And so it really does piss me off when I see people being vilified about racism when another logical explanation exists. You know, these people have been attacked in their own towns by gangs of Muslims. I mean, we know this has happened. There is simply no doubt about it. Why call them racists? There is a perfectly good reason why people are reacting to being attacked. It's not about race, obviously.
I went to this is you see you talk about the media. This is when for me I really woke up, and I did because I didn't understand. To be honest, I didn't know left wing politics, right wing politics. I didn't know the Guardian, know the Daily Mail, and I turned up for an interview with the Guardian, and I turned up with again Isaac, my friend that lost his teeth, and my mate Dorset. Now Dorset's probably 6'6". They're both black. 3 of us turned up, sat there, all normal, and I was just quite happy about getting a free lunch. Yeah? Sat there doing this interview, talking about all the things that are going on in Luton. When the story came out, they called me a racist. And I was just like, they were saying it was all race related. I thought, they haven't mentioned that I turned up with 2 black men that were my best mates. They couldn't have missed them because Dorset's like 6'6", 6'7".
If it helps, there are loads of people around who think people who are racist can also like brown people. I saw someone on Twitter call Richard Dawkins a white supremacist who was a fan of Majid Nawaz. I'm sure you know who he is, right?
Yep, of course.
And literally the guy, he was a journalist, and he was saying, well, you know, white supremacists all like Majid Nawaz. And I'm like, no, they don't.
You know what I mean?
You fucking idiots. Racists don't like brown or black people. That's how that works.
I get that all the time. And they try to throw it and make a mockery of it. Oh, I can't be racist, I've got black friends. It's like, no, I can't be racist because I've never ever had a racist bone in my body. I've never said anything racist, and I don't care about race or colour of your skin.
Yeah.
I care about a backward fascist ideology. And if you want to go down that line, I'm actually an anti-racist because I despise a white Muslim extremist probably more than a black one. So.
But it just cracks me up, the idea that a racist to turn up with 2 black mates. And that whole thing, you're just saying that, you're saying that 'cause you don't want to be called a racist. Well, what kind of racist hangs out with black guys? I mean,
the thing is, the people who make these comments, I had this incident in a town called Hitchin, this posh area, rich kids, screaming racist at me as I was walking through the town. Get out of our town, racist, racist, racist. Yeah. And it turned into a bit of a confrontation, and the next day I found out everything about them, yeah, and I went to their houses one by one. I didn't go for a fight or confrontation. I went with a camera to video them, and the first one I've knocked, and I've done everything about them. And when I've gone through, like this one lad, he lived in a £1.2 million house.
Of course he did.
And when I've come, I've said, like, the nearest mosque to this house is in Luton. It's in my town. Yeah? I've been through every one of your Facebook photos. I've been through your school photos. You don't have one non-white friend. In fact, you didn't have no non-whites in your school. Yeah? How do you think you are in a position to scream and ridicule me as a racist when I'm from 15, 20 miles up that road, yeah, and I haven't lived the life that you've lived? I don't understand your life. Yeah? I've been brought up in a town full of different races and colours, and many of the people I love, yeah, have non-white skin. But here you are on your high horse, screaming at me walking through a town centre. You're barely out of school or university. Yeah? You know nothing about the life I've lived. You know nothing. I could pick you up and put you in the town of Luton. You'll survive a week, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah? You survive a week. And here you are. And they're the people, I said, you're the people that are pushing and screaming and shouting. And most of the people, I had it again recently. I went into a hairdresser's outside of Luton, and the hairdresser said, I've got these 2 young kids who are coming in here. This is from a posh area again. And they're travelling to these anti-fascist demonstrations. Yeah? And I said, where are they from? Round here? He said, yeah. And I said, Jesus, there's no non-whites. It's just where they're from. They don't understand life where we're from.
Yeah, this seems to be a classic trait of, like, upper middle class kids. They go off to university, they learn a bunch of stuff that they don't really know anything about. They absorb it in, and then they come out and they don't know what it's like in places that aren't almost exclusively white because they live in a gentrified area. There's no getting around it.
I had a Luton University. I was standing in a pub, and this student said, "Oh, right, it's Tommy Robinson." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Can I shake your hand?" I said, "Yeah, go on, mate, shake my hand." And then I put my hand out to shake his friend's hand, and he went, "I'm not shaking your hand." I put, "Why not?" He said, "You're a racist." Yeah. So I got my phone out. I said, "Right, what I'm going to do here." I went on and I rang Nasser, who's a Muslim, Pakistani. I said, "All right, mate, how you doing?" I said, "What's happening, bro?" And I had this conversation with him. I said, "What are you up to?" I said, "Where are you from, yeah?" I said, "Whereabouts back home are you from?" And he named it all, and then I hung the phone up. I said, "You do that." John, you ring him. I'm the big break. You ring a Muslim that you've grown up with, that you've been brought up with. You do that. And he just, I said, you can't, can you? And here you are, again, you've got the view of me. You're putting me down. You're putting me down as though I've just got this blind hatred. I said, there's a reason for what I say and do. I said, it's got nothing to do with hatred of an individual Muslim. I said, because I know loads of them. I said, I've grown up with them. I said, I've grown up with them since knee high.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
So I think that's an important point to touch on, actually, that the people who I think we can rightly term Islamists are definitely a minority in Muslim communities. And there are plenty of Muslims who oppose them, right?
Yeah, I'd term really Salafists.
Well, yeah, specifically Salafists. And people need to learn that what Salafism is, because it's, well, the same ideology as ISIS. So
yeah. Well, my council gave £161,000 to the Salafist mosque last year.
Fucking why?
Yeah, so...
Jesus, why would you... Gee, that's like giving money to the Nazi party.
That's what it's like. But the Salafist Imam was part of, and is part of, my local council and their attempt to bring Luton into harmony. Now, you can't bring Luton into harmony with a section of the community who wish to execute every homosexual in the town, who wish to oppress every woman, and who generally dislike and hate us. But they play the clever game. They play the clever game. They're in the system to use the system.
Well, that's the thing. They're not stupid, and I think they do know what they're doing. And I think they know they're being protected, and I don't think they care. I think they're just going as far as they can, and it has to be stopped, without a doubt. Again, the race is irrelevant. It could be Polish people doing this. It could be anyone doing this. It's the fact that they're doing this that's important. Their race, it shouldn't be the issue here. But, right, okay, so I think this gives us quite a good context for why you felt the need to form the Luton People's, what was it, party or whatever it was called?
United People of Luton, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm guessing it wasn't really political.
No, it wasn't political at all. Do you know what, if I'm honest, stupidly, when it started growing and growing, I was of the opinion that at some point we'd be sitting down talking to representatives of all the different political parties. What a moron I was.
Yeah, that seems a little naive now you think about it, doesn't it? But,
yeah. You idiot.
Yeah, why would they care?
But I was thinking, well, this is affecting us all, and we'll push it so far, and we'll have we'll be talking to them all, about these issues. Jesus Christ, how wrong was I? Yeah. How wrong was I? If I even see a politician, he runs over the other side of the road in case he's photoed near me. So yeah.
Well, I think I've actually got some good news, because I think your reputation is kind of on the mend. Because I think a lot of people are becoming aware that the mainstream media is full of shit, and the things that Muslim gangs are doing are too widespread to deny. So I think a lot of people are starting to understand that this is actually a genuine problem, and maybe the people who, like you, were directly involved for years on the receiving end actually have a legitimate grievance. So yeah. I think the times might be a-changing, thank God. So.
Well,
yeah, and I completely in support.
I do listen back. I do listen back to interviews now. When I go on with a presenter who I'd have been on with years ago, I play back both afterwards to listen, and I find that their hostility towards me has died. And years ago, where it was just you're a bigot, you're an extremist, you've done this, you've said this, it's sort of gone. And in fact, I found that I will ask quite a lot, do I regret leaving the English Defence League? And I always answer no. I answer no because it gave me a break, and it gave my it was the right thing, and it was right at the same time for my family. But there is a part of me inside that eats up that I just think I should have kept control and made sure that it was heard still with the English Defence League, but that people listened. But it was so hard because everything against us, the slandering, the campaign, and not just the slandering, sometimes the moronic, the clowns that come to the EDL at the same time, and some of the things they did. It was blatant racist within it, all these things, but I still think there was such a vehicle, and it meant so much to so many people, that I sort of regret at times. I look at it at times, and I can watch things time and time again, and I'm just being honest. When I watch a video, I watched a recent one of EDL, it gives me something else, passion-wise, that feels like it was a part of me. And I still feel that, and I know, look, and it's not, yeah.
It's understandable, because I tell you what, the United People of Luton, it sounds like this was just a counter gang to fight back against the gangs who were predating on you.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not surprised that you'd feel.
Well, no, it started off first. The first one was family, community. Yeah. What happened was the police, when they beat everyone down, the next one was 500 hooligans. That's what happened. Right. That's honest. That's what happened.
Yeah.
So the first one was we tried. Okay, so we tried to come down to town centre. We set up a petition. They actually, do you know what they did? The police. They set a blockade up and this was ordinary people. You can watch the videos. They set a blockade up and they kettled. And I remember my auntie needed a toilet. She needed a piss, and she had to urinate in the street. Yeah, they wouldn't do that. And I remember at the time. And then from that, my friend lost his teeth. The police battened us. And I remember after that, if you didn't think the men of Luton were already angry, yeah. After this, I remember going around to all the different estates, talking to all the different lads, and just knowing that something big's happening here. And I remember ringing the police. I rang the police anonymously and said, "I'm telling you, lads, if you don't let the men get to that war memorial, you're going to regret it. The whole country's going to see the town go, because it's going to go." Yeah. And I knew, and I didn't want it to go because it's our town. I knew that things start burning on either side. That's us. We've got to live there.
Yeah.
There's innocent people on either side that are going to get hurt. I said, but it was at a point at that moment where people weren't having it. And there was young lads who put a van full of petrol bombs at the top of where the Muslim community is, from where there's an estate called Farley Hill. And I remember we were meeting all week about this. Everyone's waiting for 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks from the first one to the second one. And we were trying to calm it down. Mm-hmm. So we're going to all those people. And I remember we had to sort the van out, to make sure. Because I said, Kev, this is going to go fucking Wild Wild West. Yeah. Everyone's had enough. I said, and I think at that time, the main mosque, the Salafist mosque, it was on the news, it got blown up. There was so much going on. Yeah, and I remember then, so I rang the police and said, just get out of the way. Well, don't try and stop us. Get to that war memorial. We're not trying to go to the Muslim community. We're getting to the war memorial because that's a point for us in our town that you let them get to. Yeah. Now we want to get there and say some words there, and we did on that day. And to be honest, when you've got 500 men, which we did have, and everyone had a lot of men had balaclavas, it sort of that went nationwide, worldwide. The images, the pictures, they're still used now at different times. I don't look at that time. I keep saying so. And at that time, I was 25 years old. I was young. I was a young lad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, I've grown up a lot since then and learned a lot since then. But at that time, we didn't have no other outlet. It wasn't like we could write a letter to the council. We'd rang them. We'd ask them.
As if they'd give a fuck. Yeah.
No one cared.
Of course not. Yeah.
The only time they cared, the only time they started to listen, was when, Jesus Christ, there's 500 men at war memorial with balaclavas.
Yeah. Now, this is what I want to talk about, really, because I think people misunderstand the whole concept of using a balaclava in a situation like this. You obviously now my assumption is that you have to protect your identity for fear of repercussions.
Well, the honest assumption at this time was that between the first demonstration, the police had raided 14 homes, and they'd nicked 13 of the lads on public order offences,
right.
Just bullshit offences, and they give them 3-month bail conditions. And for those 3 months, they weren't allowed to enter Luton Town Centre 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
Yeah? Now, so they banned 13 lads. Now, one of the houses they went to was my mum's. I wasn't there. Yeah. So I knew they want me. They're going to give me bail conditions not to enter the town. Yeah. And this is when everything was escalating in the town, and we were trying to form some sort of fight back against it or a resistance to it. So I wasn't going to let them find me. So I stayed away. And then when we turned up in that morning, we all had the same tops on. They were Luton Town tops, and they said no surrender to Al Qaeda, because we've worn them since 2007. We've worn them around Luton. Everyone wears them. No surrender to Al Qaeda. And so I turned up, gave everyone the tops, so we all looked the same, and everyone a balaclava. So the 13 lads that weren't allowed in the town were all going into the town. Right. And then so basically that was the reason. But when I saw the images afterwards going all over the media, it looked militant.
Yeah.
Instantly militant. And I remember sitting there going, Jesus Christ. And I remember looking and understanding the repercussions of what we'd just done.
Yeah.
and the vision of what we've just done is exploding. Yeah. But the reason we done it, that's the reason we done it, and the fact that, and then what they did is, you know what they did? After that demonstration, I rang the police the next day because they'd raided the house. I rang them and said, "Oh, the Home Secretary came out after the second demonstration and she gave the police powers to ban any march for 3 months." So then I rang the police and said, "I need to hand myself in," and they said, "Oh, we don't need to talk to you anymore," because the charge that they arrested me on, there was no charge. It was just to give me fraudulent bail conditions. The other 30 people they arrested, they had all had their charges dropped.
And I assume that these
using powers to control.
Now, I assume that these charges, this was coming from like a sort of football hooligan style community, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a bit middle class, so I'm not into football.
Okay.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. So what people would say a football hooligan. I don't view anything like that. I just view it as just all lads.
Yeah, but it's generally like infighting between football fans, right?
Yeah. The young sort of men. Like, I got involved in it because I grew up listening to all of my family, cousins, who were all leading members of Luton's football hooligan family. It was more of it's a culture, identity, all the things we lack and lose now.
Yeah.
In this country, the football scene would give you that. And it gave me, so I grew up looking up to it and aspiring to it, and that's what I ended up getting involved in. And people say, I was very different now. Again, I'm 33 years old, father of 3.
You know,
I'm
grows
not
up.
go out in Luton and scrap on a Saturday at football. When I was 21, 22, 23, it's a very different story.
Right. So tell me about how this formed into the EDL, because in fact, before we talk about that, so the EDL is described as a far-right fascist movement in the mainstream media. I mean, what do you know of fascism? I mean, do you know anything about fascism?
No, nothing. I didn't. No, I didn't.
I just find that really amusing because, like, these people are fascists. Like, well, I don't even. I mean, like, honestly, I didn't think that you would have had much political science knowledge.
These terms, when they said far right, this was at the start of after the first UPL ones. I'm reading it in the paper, and they're all. And I remember watching on the news as the local leader of the council said, "These people coming from outside of Luton." If you watch the video, there's 500 men standing there with their arms open, singing "We Are Luton Town." Yeah? And here's the leader of our council saying these people have come from outside of Luton to disrupt our harmonious, multicultural love nest of a town.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I didn't know much about the terms. I didn't know much about any of it really.
Right, and I take it you don't consider yourself far right. I mean, you don't sound like a white nationalist to me. So
no, and we used to say I'm not far right, but I'm not far wrong. I'm not far right, I'm just right. But no, I'm not far right, and I actually despise far right ideologies now that I understand them and who they are and what they are.
Yeah.
It's not far right, and it never should have been. We never should have been. From day one, we were put into this bracket. If people would have said, and I still say it, look, if people call me a thug, yes, look, I have been a thug. Yeah, I have. I said at times in my life, I have. I've done loads of stuff I'm not happy of, and I'm not proud of. But far right, racist, I'm not holding my hands up to that because I've never been involved in that.
Yeah, you don't need to be far right to get into trouble and to get into fights and be a football hooligan. In fact, most of it, like I said, it's not very partisan. No, they don't really.
When politics did come into it on Luton scene, then any of the groups that have a far right mentality, because some football clubs do,
sure,
their biggest away day was teams like Luton, because Luton is half the lads are black.
Yeah.
For them, that's what. So it's not.
So well, that's the thing. I like these. People get called fascists and Nazis, and I'm just sat there thinking, I know what the working class are like, man. They're not very political.
No, I don't know anyone. Growing up, I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone. Like, when you talk about racism, I think I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
I've never seen it or experienced it. And then at the same time, when you look, so some people would put me down or give me a hard time, and they'd say, because of the things which I admit anyway, about football hooliganism or.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for that upbringing, if it wasn't for that mentality, and it wasn't for any of that, I would never have stood up against it. Yeah? I would never have been prepared to, or in a position to, or willing to
have the contacts and the network.
Yeah, so yeah, and any negatives that come from it, they're the reason this has happened. They're the reason that 6 years later, 7 years later, I'm still sitting here now talking to you rather than hiding under my bed.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about the whole football hooligan thing is that people forget that millions of young men go through it. You know, all across the country. You know, literally millions. And it's usually a phase. You know, they're looking for sort of, you know, just community acceptance. They're young men, so they might want to fight. You know, a lot of young men do.
Yeah,
it's not like an evil thing. It's something that young men need to do sometimes.
Yeah, and as well, and Luton's I think Luton's been voted the roughest town in the UK.
Probably.
Yeah, it's got a lot of stereotypes, but so growing up in Luton, that's what you experience it.
Yeah. So I get the feeling that there are going to be people who, you know, after not being able to vilify you on being a racist or a fascist, they'll probably say, "Oh well, he's a football hooligan." It's like, well, fucking hell, man. You know, that's a lot of people. So,
and to be honest, that's my own admittance. That's my own admittance, and it's not. Yeah, I'll just say if that's what I'm going to get vilified. If it wasn't for that, you have to take the pros with the cons.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that upbringing, wasn't for that life, I'd never have stood up to Islam. And I always said, what do you think is going to be female school teachers that are going to take the battle to Islam or challenge it? No, it's not. It's not. It's going to be men who are prepared to.
Yeah. And so so the EDL was formed as this sort of defensive measure.
Yeah.
Tell me about like the early days of it. I mean, like, let's start with. I mean, what sort of percentage white, non-white do you think you had in there? In, you know, any other ethnicities other than white? Because this is for some reason something everyone has to fucking focus on. And let's talk about it. You know.
Well, to be honest, so on the Luton one, the original Luton days, like I'd say, out of 200 lads, there'll probably only be 10, 15 non-white lads, a minority, and that same sort of percentage would have probably spread into the EDL. So, yeah, it wasn't like, I'm not going to say there was thousands of non-white people supporting. There wasn't, but there was a percentage that was within it, whether they be Sikh, Hindus, plenty of black lads, but you'd never see them on the media, the mainstream media. Do you know what I did? I'll tell you the truth. I did, at our first demonstration, our second demonstration, our Dudley demonstrations. At our Dudley demonstrations, we had Sarita, who was a Sikh girl. We had a black lad called James with dreadlocks down to here. They held their hands up together, said, "This is the English Defence League. We're not here for white supremacy." None of these things were ever mentioned by any news broadcast, any journalist. All they found every time, and I'd go to a demonstration. I remember I've been to demonstrations before, and when I watch the news clip, I think, I didn't see any of that happening. Because somewhere at some point in that day, there might have been a little corner of aggression and a bit of a confrontation.
Yeah.
And that's all they showed.
Yeah.
That's all they'd show. And they'd pick out, every bloke they'd pick out would be the angriest, ugliest looking, aggressive
skinhead motherfucker,
skinhead bloke. Yeah. I was looking, thinking, there's probably only 5 people look like that on the demo.
But that's what I wanted to establish, though, because one thing, I mean, obviously, it's a white supremacist, nationalist, you know, Nazi organisation, and if there's a significant number of non-white people, I mean, 10 to 15%, that's a significant number.
It was very different. You know, this is the honesty. You know, the stereotype that the EDL has, so different if you went to the demonstrations and met those people. So I met the best people I've ever met in my life on those demonstrations. The best people. And I remember getting so angry with David Cameron when he made a comment saying there's none sicker than the EDL. I remember thinking about all those people, all the people I've met that travel hard, spend their hard-earned money, ex-forces. You've got mums, you've got nans, you've got gays, you've got Sikhs, you've got Jews, all these, and I'm meeting all of them, and I'm thinking, you've just stereotyped every one of them like what? How dare you do that? You would never do that to a Muslim organisation. You'd never ever do that. In fact, every single time we talk about Muslims, even myself, we go out of the way to say the vast majority are okay, but this minority.
Yeah.
With the EDL, it was fair game for every politician, every journalist to just say, oh, they're all animals, they're all cretins and thugs and skinheads and Nazis. No, they're not, and they weren't. And that's the truth. And I'm honest to say that there was a percentage within it, a very, very small, at times insignificant, But they were there, and we got to a point over the years where we got rid of them. But there was a group within it that were always loitering around. I ended up kicking them all out. All these splinter groups that you hear of now, Northwest Infidels, they've all formed because I kicked them all out of the EDL. Yeah? So all these people hate me, and they hated me for years, and they were always waiting to attack me all the time. And to be honest, I felt like most of my effort, time was spent struggling against them, rather than planning what I should be doing or tackling. And even now, I'm sitting here now, and I spent 4 years on a financial restraint during my time as EDL. Mm-hmm. If the police wouldn't put me on that financial restraint, yeah, I hope they're watching this, Bedfordshire Police. Yeah, if you wouldn't have put me on that financial restraint, I'd never have been able to do what I've done.
So what's a financial restraint?
So basically, the police come in 2010. The EDL been going 9 months. The police come in 2010. They raided my home multiple times, but they arrested me. They arrested my wife. She was pregnant at the time. They arrested me. Arrested my wife. They froze all of my assets. I had a plumbing business. The year they arrested us, we probably turned over, I don't know, 200 grand, 250 grand. Yeah. We had plumbing. I had a sunbed shop. So I was doing well. Yeah. They come in. They froze everything. Froze the businesses. Froze the banks. Closed me down overnight. Yeah. Closed me down. Froze all my assets. Froze my houses because I had homes. Put locks on the houses. I wasn't allowed to sell anything. I wasn't allowed to access my own money. I was allowed £250 a week. Yeah. Okay, they kept me on it for 4 years. 4 years. Yeah? 4 years. And you can look these up. They're called financial restraints.
Yeah, I just didn't know anything about them. Yeah.
No, the Labour government passed them. The last Labour government introduced these orders, which give the police the powers to come in and put me under these restraints without any evidence. Yeah, They came in looking for evidence. So we're taking all of this. We suspect you of money laundering, tax evasion. Yeah, and mortgages. We suspect you of this. We haven't got anything on you yet, but we're going to look. And then they spent 4 years. Yeah. Now, when they done that to me, they also gave me a football banning order. So I went from overnight, my whole life, all my energy and everything would be in work, yeah, and earning money, and trying to progress and trying to further myself.
Yeah.
And overnight, it's gone. Yeah. So then I sat there, and I'm not going to work anymore. I'm sat at home. I can't do anything. I can't plan a future because everything's frozen. So I've got all this spare time. And I've got this belief and this movement that I've already started. So I'm on it, yeah, and my head's on it. So if they wouldn't have put me on that, I sit here now that they've unfrozen my accounts and I'm back working. I sat here now and I thought about it. I thought, how the hell did I do that? The EDL. Because I'm trying now. I'm trying now to counter things or be involved in things and travel to places. I don't know how I've done it. I went all around the world. I went all around the UK non-stop for 4 years. I'd be in a different city every week, staying over. I don't know how my wife is still my wife, but I don't know how I did it. And I did it because if they wouldn't have put me on that I wouldn't have been able to do it. I wouldn't have been able to do it because the push and the pull, like most people, which I don't blame them. Most people out there are mortgaged up. They've got their careers, they've got their jobs, and they're scared of losing that. Yeah,
sure.
That was me. I was the same person. I wanted to lose it. So if the police hadn't have froze that, and it would have got to that pushing point, which it was coming to anyway, where I can't do both. It's very hard to do both. Yeah, You might get away with going to a demo every couple of months, like people do who support it. But to be fully on it, because to be fully on that and to push the course, you've got to be willing to push every boundary going. You've got to be willing to go to prison. You've got to be willing to get killed. You've got if you and that's the way I used to think. You have to be willing, because otherwise you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's why we did get places, because we were willing and we didn't care. And we threw, and that was not just myself. It was Kevin Carroll as well. Kev lost his job, so we were both side by side, family members, and we had this cause and this bone between our teeth that we weren't letting go. And that's why we managed it. And I still now, I think we done well. I think it was successful. But if they wouldn't have put us on that restraint, I don't think I would have done it.
You know, that's actually something that a lot of Islamists say. The with all the sort of prisons, when after the invasion of Iraq and all that sort of stuff, they were concentrated together so they could communicate. And they're in prison or in a holding area, They're like Guantanamo, stuff like that. They're there together. They're not going anywhere. They all share the same beliefs, the same ideology. They've all aggrieved against the same people. It helps them cooperate.
Yeah,
and
it helped me, and it
Yeah.
pushed me. And even now, the things the police are doing now, they don't push me, but I'm stubborn anyway, so I have my beliefs anyway. But at the same time, I think, well, no, because even if I wanted to take a step back, I'm not taking a step back now because of you, because you think you're doing that to me to intimidate me into silence. It's like if someone says, "Don't say that, we'll kill you," I'll say it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we should say it if someone makes a thing like that. So, and that's how I sort of like it went with the police for years.
Right, okay, so tell me about like the stuff you did at the beginning of the EDL. You travelled from city to city, or organising rallies, or...
Yeah, we went from from the UPL, we attempted to go into Birmingham. I'll tell you what happened. So we had the UPL, we held a couple of demonstrations in Luton, then we had a third demonstration planned and we cancelled it. When we cancelled it, 200 Muslims came out and rioted. They attacked the police, they rioted, they set fireworks off, fresh smashed bricks. It was in the national newspapers, about 10 of them went to jail. But again, we didn't turn up and we cancelled it. The police, the chief inspector of police, because they knew I was behind it, they come to my house. And they come to my house and said, like, "You've got the demonstration in 2 weeks." I said, "Oh, we cancelled it. Because things were kicking off in Luton." Yeah? I said, "Look, it's the wrong time. It's not going to progress. It's going to be a riot. We know that ourselves. So we're not coming. We're pulling the plug on the one in Luton." They didn't believe us. So on the day of that demo, when I'm sat having a pizza with my mates, there's 100 meat wagons. There's riot police around the whole town. So because of that, the Muslims have all thought they're coming. Yeah? They've all got mobbed up. They've all come out of fireworks, bricks, bottles. You can see the videos of it. They've all then launched attacks against the police. Yeah? We're not even there. We're not coming. And we told the police we weren't coming. And then I remember driving through the town. I got nicked that day. They pulled me over in my car and drove me on suspicion of driving a rigger. Dropped all charges again, but they held me for the day. They also nicked Kev Carroll that morning. But yeah, so from that then, we thought about Anjem Chowdhury's group, because it was all about Anjem Chowdhury's group.
Yeah.
They were holding Islamic Roadshow in Wood Green, and our intention was to stop them. So we went in the back of a transit van from Luton, and we piled out of the van, and the police come, and it was all kick-offs in the road, and we stopped, and it shut their Islamic Roadshow down. And then from that, like, we were looking at this group who have just basically insulted our armed forces, and as young lads, that's what our intentions were. Our intentions were to confront these terrorists, find them, confront them, and find out where they're going to be and disrupt them as much as we can. So from advertising their list of where they're doing this Islamic Roadshow on their website, they then realised, because one of these kids went to my school, 2 years above me at school, one of their main lads, he went to my school. So from seeing that, they then pulled all their dates. So no one knew where they're going to be. So we thought, we're having an effect on them here. Yeah, like they can't advertise because they know all these lads from Luton are going to turn up. Yeah. So then I'm sitting there and I saw this this recording where they held the Islamic Roadshow. They held the Islamic Roadshow in Birmingham City Centre, and they got this young kid called Sean up on stage, and they had "Jesus was a Muslim" on a big banner behind him. That's what they had behind them in the middle of the city centre.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
6 weeks after abusing our soldiers, they're in Birmingham City Centre. Police are standing next to them, just all happy like they are. And they stopped this 11-year-old boy called Sean. They got him up on stage, and Anjem Chowdhury made the 11-year-old boy repeat after him. Yeah? And he converted him there and then. 11 years old. He was just out with his mate.
He was doing the Shahada with him?
He'd done the Shahada. 11 years old. So I remember that, and all these things are happening, and I'm watching it again like, well, hold on. What's going to happen about this, yeah? They can't do that, yeah? The police stood there, the council, and I thought, right, let's see if the Muslim community come out in opposition to this. There's got to be a headline, a news story, nothing at all. Nothing. So that's when then we said, we're leaving Luton, we're going to Birmingham, we're going to highlight, and we made placards that read, "What about Sean's rights? He's a child," yeah? We made placards again saying, remember that, and this was when I was getting into the jihad, learning about it. We stand with the victims of jihad in Nigeria, because I was learning all about Boko Haram.
Yeah.
all the banners said that. You can go and get them all on the videos.
Yeah.
We went to Birmingham, again, Muslim, no problem, extremist Muslim, big problem. That's one of the banners. Black and white handshaking, all the messages of what we believed. Now, when we turned up in Birmingham, Salma Yaqub clenched her fist because they said we were the BNP. Yeah, the BNP are coming, the BNP are coming. She clenched her fist and said, we must smash them, smash them, smash them. She rallied up a crowd in the city centre. Those Muslims charged through those streets and beat and attacked everybody. There was still no... So afterwards, everyone's been attacked. Afterwards, there's still no mention in any of the newspapers or anywhere, politicians or anyone, about what Anjem Choudary done to this kid. So we thought, we'll go back again, right? We need to highlight what's happened to this kid. We went back again. This time, the local imam from one of the mosques, and this was all in national newspapers, he told his congregation to come out and confront us. Yeah? So again, we were locked in a pub for 2-3 hours while Muslims emptied bricks from skips and rioted and smashed the city up for 3 or 4 hours. Yeah. When we come out, the whole place was littered. All of our bus windows were put through. And I remember after that again, and there was pictures and images in the national newspapers of English kids on the floor and 6 or 7 Muslims jumping on their head. Yeah. And it was those images then that went out in the papers that we're then reading. So still no one's talked about Sean. Still no one's talked about Sean.
Yeah.
Well, what happened? No press, nothing. We haven't managed to get it out there, which was what our intention was. Then I'm sitting there and I'm looking online and I see a mosque being built in Longsight in Manchester. This is how it all formed, yeah? Because in those Birmingham demonstrations, the first one there was 50 lads from Luton. The second one there was 200 people. A few of the Midlands football clubs come and got involved, yeah? Wolves were there. There was a few different groups there. So from 200, the images went out in the newspapers, in the national newspapers, of us being beaten up and attacked, and the videos were online, and people are watching the videos all around the country. We then saw this mosque being built, and there was the BNP had done it, and now we were fooled, if I'm on it. Now I look back, but the BNP. So basically, there were headstones being crushed, yeah, and demolished. Christian headstones. Yeah. So I'm reading this, looking, Christian headstones are being smashed up. You're building a mosque. You're just knocking down all the graves. And so then we said, right, we'll go to Manchester over that. Yeah, because all these things I'm finding then that I'm thinking, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. So we'll go to Manchester. When we turned up in Manchester, because all these men, like ourselves, young men, had seen the videos, seen the images of English men being beaten off the streets, when we turned up, we went from 200 to 2,000 young men turning out. And I remember when we turned up just going, obviously I wasn't ready for it, I was wearing a burqa, but I remember going, oh God, what now? This was the start then. Yeah. And it was the start. And the men that come, you have to understand that after watching those videos, you can go find the videos online. Muslims kick the living shit out of all the English lads in Birmingham. Yeah? Yeah. What sort of people were going to turn out in Manchester?
Rough ones.
Rough ones. Men ready. Yeah. That's what happened. That gave birth to the English Defence League in the country seat. And we then went from Manchester to Stoke, and what happened in Stoke was really when we realised, or I realised, Jesus, this is a snowball and it's getting big, and we ain't ready because we didn't have any stewards, security. We didn't have this planned. It wasn't a plan. Yeah. This was just, well, we'll go here, we'll go there, see what happens. In Stoke, there were some terrible scenes. There was police officers being attacked, cars being attacked. There was an explosion of people's frustrations just let out, and then it was all a learning curve, and it was all growing into it, learning from it, learning how to deal with the police.
Well, tell me about the internal workings of it then.
The internal workings. So at one point we tried to, and this may sound like a dictatorship, but I didn't want everything on my head, yeah, and because I knew what was coming. I thought they're going to take the head off the snake. Yeah? If they take the head off the snake, we still need a movement that's going to be able to move. So we made 8 leaders. For the different
That's not very dictatorial.
What's that?
That's not very dictatorial. Having one leader is dictatorial. Having 8 of them is actually quite decentralised.
No, you will understand in a minute. We made 8 leaders. We made 8 leaders, and I set up these 8 leaders from different areas of the country, and all they done was argue. Yeah? Mm-hmm. And we couldn't decide anything. Because whereas before I would say, we're going to Stoke, we're going to Manchester, now we had 8 people arguing, bickering about my area, your area. So then I just said, right lads, I'm sorry, but I'm leading again,
Yeah.
and we're spending all our time arguing amongst each other. I'm going to make a decision, and I hope people follow it and support it.
Yeah.
And that's how it then went, and and it grew, and it at the times it was unbelievable looking back at it, and that we managed to do it. That we managed to do it, really, because everything was everything. The police were trying everything you can think of to stop it, to shut it down. In the early days, see, the Muslim community, I believe they take their messages very, very, very. They're very dictated to from their leadership, and they do as they're told.
Yeah.
So in those early days, there seemed to be a message of smash them and crush them. Yeah, just get rid of them. That didn't work. Once that didn't work, they pulled back. We went from turning up with Muslims rioting in all the cities to turning up and Muslims are not there. So the Muslims were staying away. They were staying away, and their leaders were telling them to stay away. And then and we just had 5 years of different highlighting different issues, talking about grooming. I remember the police, South Yorkshire Police, come and arrested me to prevent me talking at a demonstration there. They arrested me at Luton Airport. They travelled down from South Yorkshire, 20 police officers. They nicked me at the airport. They raided my mum's, raided my wife's, seized all our computers on trumped up charges. They admitted in the IPCC report that it was a politically motivated arrest. They admitted it. Yeah? And then they gave me bail. They prevented me attending a demonstration in South Yorkshire, bail conditions to stop me going to the EDL, all for supposed criminal damage. But this was at a time when South Yorkshire Police were still lying, it's Rotherham and these things. Yorkshire, these things hadn't come out.
Yeah, they were covering them up, and
they were still
taking political action agained someone who might have led.
They were still putting it back in, and here's this annoying little fat kid from Luton who's travelling around. He's going to scream it in our face, and he's because we made banners saying, women are not halal meat. Stop. I remember at Leicester, because in those early days as well, I didn't want to lead it, and that's the truth. And I didn't want to give speeches either in the very early days. If you watch the demonstrations, I didn't give no speeches in the first demonstrations. I used to get other people to try and find other people to. And when I finally did at Leeds, I wore a mask and I read a speech. And now, everything I say, I remember I tried to prepare a speech. I've never prepared a speech. I read one like that, and now I tried to prepare one and member one for one demonstration, and I froze. And after that, I thought, I'm not doing that again. I'm just talking from here.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I'm never preparing a speech again. I've never prepared a speech since, or even a debate. I just think I'm just going to talk.
I tell you what, mate. I get tremendous stage fright, so I don't think I could give a speech in front of a crowd, especially with a bunch of fucking cops and rowdy people.
You've been after 10 vodkas.
Oh, I'd have to. I'd fucking have to. But but yeah, okay. So I mean, how much violence was the EDL involved in?
No, not a lot. No. I'll challenge you now. I'll challenge any of you people watching this now. Find me footage online of English Defence League supporters violently attacking or beating up a Muslim.
Well, that's actually something I was going to say, is because I've never seen anything to prove it. But it's one of the things that are obviously said. And
there was bottles thrown, bricks thrown within police and things like that. But if you try and find footage of them violently attacking a Muslim or anything like that, you won't. You try and find footage of Muslims violently beating and attacking EDL supporters, you find loads.
Yeah, I've got no.
You find loads. You find loads.
Okay, so you left the EDL in 2013, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you do that?
It's not because, if I'm honest, and I used Quilliam, and Quilliam used me, and people don't know hearing it.
Well, you mean the Quilliam Foundation, right?
Quilliam Foundation. So I was leaving the English Defence League anyway. I was leaving because I'd been put in custody, and when I come out of custody, many of the far right morons that I'd battled with for years had been attending our demonstrations. The regional organisers in positions had not kept them out. Yeah? Right. And I can only walk around my hometown, and I can only walk around head held high so long as the movement that I stand for progresses them and pushes the message for what I believe in. The minute we have white pride flags at a demonstration, I'm not comfortable showing my face in the places that I show my face in Luton. Because so far as I can show my face and everyone knows I'm true to what I'm saying, I'm never going to stand with it. So when there was flags and things at a Manchester demonstration when I was in prison, I felt let down. I come out. It wasn't just that. I felt let down on so many levels. And it's when I went away. I felt like my family were left on their own. Here I was ready to die for this movement. And here I was now. I'm in prison for 10 months, and my family are being made homeless. Going to be made homeless.
Why were you in prison for 10 months?
I illegally. It's my own fault again. I flew to America and I went on my friend's passport because they deported me the year before. So I took my friend's passport. I got into JFK Airport. I spent 2 days at JFK in New York. I gave a speech at an event there. I come home and 6 weeks later, the British police arrested me. I was remanded in custody and I spent 22 weeks on solitary confinement for that.
Fucking hell! Why solitary?
Because at that time I think they were trying to break me. So that changed, and also for my own safety, they said I didn't want to be on solitary, but they moved me from solitary they moved me from Wandsworth Block to Bedford Block to Woodhill Block to Wandsworth Block to Wayland Block. They're not allowed to spend more than 28 days in solitary confinement for your mental health issues. They left me. I was left 22 weeks in a cell with nothing and no one, and I didn't see anyone. And at that time, I have no doubt that was done because I was still leading the EDL, and it was done to put a strain and real pressure on me. Yeah. And it did. It went. I remember at the same time, at that time when I was in there, I remember knowing that I needed to be in there because I changed from the person I was to 3 years of leading the EDL. I was a different person. I was neglecting my family. I was drinking a lot of alcohol. I was even taking drugs. I was not the person that I was 3 years before. Yeah. And I used to think I dealt with the pressures of death threats, the pressures of the violence, the pressures of the police. I just think I've dealt with it all right. I just brush my shoulders off and think, yeah, crack on. But I hadn't. And then I had that time in prison, and then whilst on solitary confinement, I had a time to really think, and you not stop thinking, but I realised then that I hadn't become a nice person. Not for the positive. So people would say I was a great leader to the EDL, but I wasn't a great dad. Yeah. Wasn't a great son. Wasn't a great son. So then that gave me time when on solitary confinement to really. But then after 8 weeks or 9 weeks or 10 weeks, it started getting a bit. Jesus, I need to get the hell out of here, man.
I don't blame you, man. That's fucking terrible.
And then so when I got out, I saw that these people, and I had all this going on anyway, and a lot of the people in the English Defence League leadership had turned on Kevin Carroll. He'd dedicated everything that I'd dedicated. So I was disgusted with that. There was a lot, and I come out and I made the decision then. I'm leaving, it's just how I leave, what am I going to do? And I made that decision, and then Lee Rigby got killed. So I hadn't been to a demonstration, I was just about to leave. Lee Rigby gets killed, and I lost my head. Not lost my head, but Lee Rigby got killed, and I just I threw myself back in.
What happened after? Just for anyone who isn't aware, Lee Rigby got murdered in the middle of the day by two Islamists.
Lee Rigby got murdered. Lee Rigby got murdered on the 22nd. I know that because it's my son's birthday, and I was sat at home with all family round for his birthday, and I was just coming out of this. I'm watching it on the news, and then I'm listening, and then I found out it's a soldier. And I remember I just turned around and said, I'm off. I said to my wife, I'm going. And she's like, what? And this is again, he just took over. I said, I'm going. She said, where are you going? I said, Woolwich. And I left, and I went to Woolwich, and then I made a video the next day talking about the death of Lee Rigby, and that video had 700,000 hits the next day. It went viral.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm on 10% battery. It went viral, and
sorry, do you wanna grab a charger or something?
I haven't got one on my mum's.
Oh shit! Well, I guess we'll have to call it an end fairly soon then.
Yeah. Yeah, I could. You can stay. I could do you on the phone while I drive home, but yeah, I'm at my mum's.
Yeah. Okay. So
yeah,
So go on. Tell me what happened after Lee Rigby.
We held demonstrations. We flew back into it, and then it got to a point. Then months later, where I was in court in 3 weeks. I knew the police had me in a position where they had my wife on a charge, they had other family members on a charge, and I knew what was coming. I knew they were going to offer me a deal. They don't want any of them. They're only putting them through the courts to get me. So I knew, and part of the biggest thing I have is my family security. No one knows what my wife or children look like. They would have done after she has to walk into a Crown Court trial. So I was offered a deal to plead guilty to charges, and they'll drop all the charges against my family. So I took the deal, but prior to this, in the build-up to this happening, I knew this was going to happen. I knew I was going to be forced out of the English Defence League for a certain time. I was also fed up with certain things that were going on, so I decided to leave. I then become into contact with Majid Nawaz, and pretty much I was offered a deal where I knew I'd been on a financial restraint for 4 years. I knew last time when I went to jail, the English Defence League didn't support my family enough. They did. It just didn't happen financially. So I knew my family were going to be made homeless, and all of this is working towards what I saw the state want. The state would have me in prison for 3 years, 4 years. Whilst I'm in prison, my family would be made homeless from the home they're living in. My children would be moved from school again and housed. They've lived in 5 houses in 4 years they had. Before they're going to have to move home again, right, disrupt their life. And whilst they have to move home, they're going to have to go to the council for a council house. The council are going to then put them in a Muslim community. And I'm thinking, this is what they've wanted. This is why I've been on restraint for 4 years. This is what their goal is. I said, this will break me, and it will, and there's nothing I can do. So then, when I met with Quilliam, the deal and agreement was that however long I get in custody, they would cover all of my wife's home bills. Because I've never claimed a benefit in my life. I've never claimed a benefit. So I said, all the private rent, everything for my family has to be covered. I said, and the minute I come out of jail, wash hands, you don't have to hear from me again. And because you're going to do what they're going to do, whatever. And that's the deal I had. So some people call that selling your soul. Some people have said to me, you're sold out. I call it surviving. Because
I don't see what choice you would have had.
I didn't see. And that was the hard. And I'd only give Kev Carroll 2 days' notice. I said, Kev, I'm leaving EDL with Quilliam. This is what's happening. And he's just like, what? What are you on about? Because it was just a big throw for him. And I said, Kev, I'm doing it, mate. This is the first time in 5 years I put my wife and children first. Because I put the cause before them every time. Every time. This is the first time I need to know that my kids are not moving to school. I need to know they're not moving home. I need to know that the duration, if I have to sit on solitary confinement for 3 years, I can do it knowing that they're okay. I said, and I didn't feel that the support would be there from the EDL to carry on, and because it wasn't last time. It wasn't the time before. So that's where I was at, and then I left.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that before you went to prison for this was 22 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And that was after you left that the infiltration or the sort of attendance of white nationalists increased to the point where you were uncomfortable being part of the EDL. And then you left.
Yeah, well, those groups, I'd had running battles with them. I'd actually had punch-ups. Some of them had travelled down to Luton, to the pub that I was drinking. I'd gone out the back and had square-ups with them. One had to come from Newcastle. So I'd kicked them out physically, verbally. We'd had running confrontations with these groups, and it got to a point, before I went to jail, where they'd never come. They knew they couldn't come. I'm then off the scene, they're all back in.
Yeah, because that doesn't.
And I felt let down.
That doesn't surprise me. If you're the main thing keeping these people from attending, the second you disappear, of course they're going to attend. Okay, and so what? I guess to end on, what do you think the state of the EDL is at the moment? Because I'm sure you saw the video of the guy singing my praises, and if you didn't, there is one around. And this guy was talking about the liberal values that I talk about. He's
a good guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I assume he's not a racist.
No, he's a great guy.
The thing is, if there are a lot of white nationalists in the EDL and a lot of people who aren't white nationalists, what do you do?
There's not a lot of white nationalists in the EDL. I was wrong. I always thought when I left the English Defence League that it would be overtaken by white nationalists, because some of the stronger characters in these movements were them. And I was wrong, and it wasn't. And those white nationalists have held their own events, as you've seen in Dover. People have seen in Dover. Yeah, and you've seen a certain affiliation by some members within the EDL, which I would never allow. When I was there, I was like, we're not affiliated with anyone with EDL. There's no affiliation, no other flags, no other demonstrations, no one goes anywhere else. And people stuck to it. What stage is the EDL at now? I feel very, very beaten down, and are getting a hard time. Because a lot of those people have given a lot, and given a lot to highlight these issues. Is it really... I still know loads of people in it who are great people. Some of the people that I've seen involved in it, I wouldn't have involved in it myself if I was involved in it now. But yeah, it's not look, something's going to happen. Even with Pegida UK at the minute, there's something's going to happen that's going to change things. Yeah, a big moment. Who knows when and who knows what it's going to be. When that happens, there has to be a controlled and mainstream, moderate response and voice. Yeah, it can't be left. It can't be left to groups like the Northwest Infidels. It can't be left. If no one's going to fill that void, they will.
Yeah.
They will. Yeah? If no one's going to talk about these issues, they will. And I'm not happy, and I haven't been happy even when I left the ETS. Part of what eats me up a little bit is that I've seen people attracted to these other movements and listening to the sway and influence of them leaders, which is not right. And it's not positive. It's certainly not liberal. And it's not off the ethos that we built our movement on. So, but yeah.
Well,
I think we've got a lot of trouble ahead anyway.
I don't doubt. But the thing is that, like I was saying earlier, I think a lot of people are starting to understand the twin dragons of calling... well, I guess that he's gone, but I was going to say the twin dragons of calling people racist and... Oh, I can't remember what I was going to say now, but I don't think these things are working. So, Tommy, if you see this, thanks a lot for coming on, man. I think a lot of people really appreciate it. I really appreciate it, and I'm not surprised that the EDL, A, wasn't primarily racist in character, and B, has been completely maligned in the media. It does not surprise me at all. The media is just full of shit. It's just full of shit, and you should be entirely sceptical. And I wasn't at first, and... you know, it really seems like a lot of people have put a lot into it because of the way they've been treated, you know. So, but anyway, yeah. Again, Tommy's phone's probably run out of batteries. So, thanks for everyone for listening, and I'll see you all later.